Using shoulder rigs is a great way to add energy to your footage and really take your audience along for the ride and make them feel like they're right there in the middle of the action. But there are some challenges with using shoulder rigs, and one of the biggest ones is pulling focus and keeping things nice and sharp. So today we're going to take a look at a couple things I've done with this rig to help solve those challenges. Let's check it out. When you're using a shoulder rig, you can of course use autofocus as long as you have a camera and lens with good enough autofocus performance that you can rely on. But for me, I prefer to shoot with manual focus because I know where the focus should be for the story and the camera doesn't, especially when I'm shooting with the Pocket 6K. Honestly, it has no idea where the focus should be half the time. There are really two ways to pull focus manually on a shoulder rig. One, you could do it directly off the lens by just putting your hand right on there and pulling the focus where you want it to be. But I found the biggest problem with this is that, of course, once I take my hand off this other grip, also my stability gets really poor and the footage gets much more shaky. So I really don't like pulling focus by hand on a shoulder rig. It's just not practical. So that's where the next way to pull focus comes into play, and that's with a wireless follow focus system. So I actually already have the Tilta Nucleus Nano all set up to pull focus here. So this is how I've been pulling focus on a shoulder rig up until recently when I found an even better solution. However, an issue with having the focus wheel up here is that I still have to take my hand off of this grip and bring it up here so the rig can still kind of rock back and forth, so my horizon isn't going to be perfectly straight. And now all the weight is on my right arm and it starts to get really heavy and cramp quickly. Now this is better than just having my hand right on the lens because this is a good point of contact to kind of stabilize it a little bit better, but it's still really not ideal. Now the way that I tried to solve this was take the focus wheel off of the 15mm rods and bring it down here somewhere by the grip. But unfortunately, I just couldn't find a good place to mount this onto the grip because there are no threads on here. And I'm sure there are some other grips out there that would allow you to mount this to it. But even still, when I'm actually holding onto the grips nice and stable and my hand is fully wrapped around it, I have to open my hand to get to the focus wheel. So that's still awkward because I just don't have full range, like with my fingertips here, to spin this around. It's just really not a good way to pull focus when you're using a shoulder rig. So because the focus wheel is still not a good way to pull focus on a shoulder rig, I had to come up with another solution, and I think I found the answer. So the biggest change is that I need to switch out one of the grips that I'm using here on the front. So what I have here is this SmallRig arm with area rosette connections on both sides, and it's fully extendable so I can get it to the exact length that's comfortable for me. Now we need to add a grip to this, and that is where the Tilta Nucleus Nano side focus handle comes in. And this one has an area rosette on it as well, so it'll go right in place. Now that we have the side focus handle on there, we need to get power to the motor. So we're going to use the micro USB cable that actually came with the Nucleus Nano and plug it into the side of this handle. So the cool thing about this grip is it provides all the power you need to run the follow focus, and you don't need to run it into a V-mount battery anymore. There are a few different versions of these grips, and the biggest difference is the battery type they take. So mine uses the Sony NPF batteries, but they also make one that takes the Canon LP batteries. So the one you get just depends on the battery system you're most invested in. Now, while we're on the topic of the battery solution, there is one design flaw of this grip that I've found, and that's that the battery release button can easily be hit, and then the battery can slide right out. Unfortunately, there's no like battery door on there to keep the battery in. It just slides in and out really easily. Now, like I said earlier, there are a few different versions of these handles with the way that they mount. So this has the area rosette, but they also make them with area locating pins, and then one that is proprietary to Tilta cages only. But you want to make sure you get the one with area rosettes because that's how you can connect them to arms like these. Another great advantage of the area rosette is that you can of course position it wherever you want. So you want to find what's the most comfortable for you when you're using this on a shoulder rig, and that placement can go wherever you want, and then you can just lock it down into place so that it feels really comfortable when you're out filming. Now, of course, you want to see just how well this works for pulling focus. So I've just powered it on, and we're going to go ahead and calibrate the motor now. So on the back here, there's just a little cal button, and you hold that down for 3 seconds, and you'll see on the motor itself that it begins calibrating. And usually it just runs to infinity, and then it goes to your close focus, and everything will be mapped so that you can pull focus. Now, of course, calibration works the easiest when you have lenses that have hard stops like cinema lenses, but if you have stills lenses that don't have hard stops, you can do a manual calibration as well. Now that the lens is calibrated, let me show you just how easy it is to pull focus. Ha, boom, just like that. With the little flick of my finger, I can pull focus to exactly where I need it to be. That's the beautiful thing about this little focus wheel here on the front. It allows me to keep a nice firm grip on the rig, but then just move my pointer finger along the wheel to focus exactly where I need it to be. And the cool thing about this little focus wheel is that it's really sensitive. So if I just need to make really small, minute corrections to my focus, I can just smoothly turn that wheel. But then if I need to make really dramatic focus movements, I can just wheel it from one side to the other with just pulling my finger back and forth along the wheel. So I'm at my close focus distance and then infinity within a split second there. So it's really nice if you need to do dramatic rack focuses. Being able to pull focus like this is a huge game changer for shoulder rigs because I no longer have to take my hand off the rig and make it unstable to get to that focus wheel or the lens up here. Another huge advantage of the side focus handle is the fact that it has a wired connection to the motor. So I never have to worry about losing connection between my focus wheel and the motor itself or any interference or anything like that, like I've had happen on set before where I just couldn't pull focus and everything was acting all glitchy with the focus wheel because it was wireless. This is just much more reliable being completely wired. Something that I do wish Tilta would add to their Nucleus Nano setup is some internal memory, because anytime you power this thing down, it completely forgets the mapping that you've done for the lens. So every time you repower it up, you have to do another calibration on the lens, which can be a bit of an annoyance if you keep powering it down and you're trying to move quickly on set. You're going to be slowed down a little bit by doing a recalibration. There are a few other features to this grip as well. Besides just being able to pull focus, it actually has a 12-volt output. So if you want to power your camera off of this grip with the larger Sony NPF batteries, you can also do that. Another feature of the grip is that the power button actually doubles for a run, start, and stop button. So if your camera supports it, you can actually start all your recording right here, so you don't have to reach up on the camera and find the record button. You can just do it right here quickly with your thumb. Now, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K doesn't currently support remote start and stop with this grip, but maybe it will in the future, and I'm sure there are other cameras that can use this really convenient feature. Now, something else you could do is you could actually run with 2 of these focus handles if you wanted to. So you could use an entire another duplicate setup here on the other side, and then just mount a motor on the other side here for either your zoom or iris control. So let's say you didn't want to take your hands off of the grips to just zoom in and out, you could set all that up here on your right hand as well. So that'd be pretty cool to be able to just pull focus and zoom in and out all right from the grips here. Tilta makes grips specifically designed for using on shoulder rigs, and that is for the Tilta Nucleus M system. But that system is about 10 times the price of the Nucleus Nano. If you want to get all of the full grips, it's around $2 grand. Now that we've covered the side focus handle, let's talk about the monitoring setup, which is pretty much equally as important for getting sharp focus. When you're using a shoulder rig, of course, once you have the camera up on your shoulder, you can't see that back LCD without turning your head completely around, and it's just really not practical at all because it's too close to my eyes to get focus. Of course, you could use an EVF right here and just cup your eye to it, but I prefer to use a monitor setup because then I can see all my surroundings in the action and still see what I'm framing up. So I have a couple different pieces here to get the monitor in the position that it is, and I want to break it down really quickly so I can show you how I've done it. So the monitor setup uses all SmallRig parts and a small HD focus, but you can really use any 5-inch monitor. So it all revolves around this EVF support that has a NATO rail mount. On the side of my cage, there is NATO rail, so I could easily put the EVF mount here if I wanted to, and then mount the monitor right here. But what I found with this setup is that the monitor still sits too close to my face and makes it hard to focus. So instead, I found another place to put this support, and that is on the top handle. So I'm using this SmallRig top handle with a NATO mount that just goes right on top of my cage. And I have the handle pointing this way, away from my face, so it gives me a little bit more distance. Now, on this top handle, there is no NATO rail mount on it, so I actually have to add it. So I'm using this little NATO rail attachment right on the side of the handle. Now that we have the NATO rail on there, I can slide the EVF support right on and lock it into place. And now it just sits a couple inches further in front of my face than it used to. Now to attach the monitor to this setup is really easy. I can just use the 1/4-20 thread that actually comes with it and hang the monitor there. But I want a little bit of extra distance from my face still. So what I'm gonna do is turn this piece away, and now it's about 2 inches further away, and lock it down. But I can't just mount the monitor like this because I won't be able to see it, obviously. So I'm using another SmallRig monitor mount, and this just uses little 1/4-20 threads, and I'm actually going to thread it to the front here. All right, there we go. Now the monitor is directly in front of my eyes, so I'm not looking up or looking down and just craning my neck. And it's a good distance from my eyes, so I'm not straining my eyes. I'll try and turn around here and show you guys kind of where it's lining up. And the nice thing about this is it's fully adjustable. So if I don't like the angle, of course, I can tilt it here and I can do all of those little minor adjustments that I want to. So with this setup, you can see just how easy it is to pull focus and make sure things are nice and sharp with the monitor right in front of you. So guys, if you're interested in any of these parts that I use today, definitely check out the links in the description below. And if you want to see more rig builds like this, definitely hit subscribe right now because I have a ton more videos coming out on shooting, editing, lighting, gear reviews, and everything like that, and you don't want to miss it. All right, I'll see you in the next video.